Thank you to Zhuin for sponsoring this video. Don't buy the iPhone 11 right now. The iPhone 11 is really the iPhone for everybody. When Apple split the iPhone 11 line this year between the 11 and the 11 Pro, it would have been easy for Apple to take their lower end phone, the iPhone 11, and hinder it. But Apple didn't. And they kept the price point well under $1,000, making the iPhone 11, again, the iPhone for everybody. All right, so now that we're coming up on a year with the iPhone 11, I wanted to look back, a final review of the iPhone 11, and sort of share the experiences that I've had with it, the good and the bad, and I think most importantly, if I could still recommend it. The design of the iPhone 11, I think, is where it started to show its age over the past 10, 11 months. It's not that it's a bad design, it's just kind of a forgettable one. And when you look at the phones that have come out since the iPhone 11, I think it especially looks a bit dated. Not a deal breaker, not a giant issue. I imagine the next generation of the iPhone 11, whatever they decide to call that, the iPhone 12, will have that different look and feel that'll make it, keep pace with the devices that have come out over the past year. So I think when you look at the iPhone 11, if they're at least on paper, one sticking point, one thing you could say that could take away from the phone, it's clearly the screen, right? It's an LCD screen in a world of high refresh OLEDs. And much like a 120 hertz screen looks beautiful to your eye when you first use it, you get used to it, eventually that high refresh tends to fade into the background. And I do think that's the same thing with the LCD screen on the iPhone 11. And I'm by no means making excuses for that. I think at this price point and this day and age, the screen needs to be higher resolution, they need a higher refresh rate. I'm a broken record with what Apple needs to do with their displays, but all of that aside, it is still a really good display. The iPhone 11 is actually the phone that I got my wife when it first came out. So I went and talked to her about her experiences with the phone, and she knows very little or has very little interest in screen technology. And to her eye, who uses the phone day in and day out ever since the launch day, she loved the screen. Had no idea it didn't have a high resolution, didn't know what a refresh rate was. So for people that are just looking for a good display, the iPhone 11 still delivers. So while the screen is sort of the one thing that jumps out on a spec list of something that's a negative on the phone, the flip side of that, what jumps out is the A13 processor. It's the same processor that's in the much more expensive iPhone 11 Pro and iPhone 11 Pro Max. And that was a big move for Apple to put that flagship processor. Now, like you'd expect with the iPhone 11 and phone that's not even a year old, it's a beast. It benchmarks well, it performs well, no matter what I'm doing. The phone has always been fast. I have never experienced stutter, I've never experienced slowdown. The phone is just a beast when it comes to performance, as fast as its much more expensive big brothers. Now, certainly software is part of that, right? iOS 13, which did not come out of the gate that well. It had bugs, there were issues that eventually got squashed, but I don't think iOS 13 is gonna earn the gold ribbon of Apple OS build. And because it's an iPhone, obviously you'll get iOS 14 and you'll get software updates for 3 to 4 years, which really puts Apple in unmatched territory. So when the iPhone 11 came out, I don't think anybody cared at all about missing Touch ID. That wasn't anything that was on anybody's mind. Face ID is just much better. 2020 happened and sort of smacked us all upside the head. And in a world of masks, I guess it would have been nice to even have, what could be an outdated technology of Touch ID. Whether it would be an in-screen or having the physical button, would have been a nicer way to unlock the phone while I'm still wearing my mask. And to Apple's credit, they made it a lot easier to get to the passcode. It happens much faster. Obviously, this isn't Apple's fault, but you look at some of the competition that offers both options. Now, sometimes the facial recognition that they have isn't as secure as Face ID, but at least there's biometric redundancy. And sort of the other kind of flagship-y features that you'd expect are all here. Things that maybe make the phone use more enjoyable, but you don't think about on a daily basis. So Wi-Fi 6, gigabit LTE, all making faster data speeds are nice to have. Wireless charging, something that I think a lot of people use every day, and battery life. And when I was talking to my wife about her use with the iPhone 11, she is hitting that phone hard that she's never had battery issues. And I think that's true of most folks who use the iPhone 11. That was true of my experience. It's very easily a day phone. And if you change your use case, it can almost be a 2-day phone. So that's one of the benefits of having that LCD low resolution display, is that you also get better battery life. So when you look at the iPhone 11 Pro line of phones, $1,000 plus, you'd expect those cameras at that price to be amazing. But for Apple, at $750, like the iPhone 11, you might think they might get a little Apple-y and start cutting out features and performance of those cameras. I was really impressed with the quality of images and video that came out of the iPhone 11. In fact, like I said, my wife uses this phone day in and day out. We've used some of the pictures that she's taken with her phone and had them printed out and blown up and hanging on our wall. That's the best endorsement that I can give, and that's a rare use case. Most people aren't printing out their pictures anymore. They're mostly going to Instagram or Facebook. But the fact that the quality looks so good was really been impressive. Portrait mode is awesome, as good on the iPhone 11 as it is on the Pro. And all the other flagship stuff, Smart HDR, Deep Fusion, have been really solid. Night mode is something I was really excited about with this generation of phones. And honestly, it's not been something that I've used that much. Now, I don't think night mode is as good as what Google and maybe some competitors are doing, but it is still really good and a nice feature to have, even if it's one that I haven't used as much as I thought I would. So the same thing could be said for video. So it's missing out on 8K and higher, like some of the competition has, but dynamic range is still really good. In fact, we've used iPhones as B-roll and sometimes A-roll cameras in these videos, and chances are you haven't even noticed. The video is that good. So the video stabilization is pretty good. It's got OIS and EIS built in, but if you want that really smooth stabilization as you walk or run around, you're going to need a gimbal, much like this one. And this is the Zhiyun Smooth X. And for $60, you are getting an amazingly capable gimbal. So you might have heard of Zhiyun in the past. They make gimbals for like a bunch of stuff. We've used and loved their Crane series, for example, for our bigger cameras. Everything that they've learned and used for those professional level gimbals is sort of filtered down to the Smooth X. You get that benefit without really paying any of the price. So the first thing is that it folds down to be super portable. You can throw this thing in your pocket, even in your bag. Whenever you want to take it out to get that video, you can do it. It's a 2-axis gimbal. You've got full joystick controls that'll automatically switch in portrait and landscape, which I still just love to watch it do. So another cool feature too, it kind of has a selfie stick type feature. You can extend it out to 260 millimeters. So if you want to get a wider shot of yourself or be able to shoot up over a crowd, you've got that flexibility. And again, in something that's super duper small and compact. There's a companion app too that goes along with it. You're gonna get a bunch of features in there. You'll get smart mode. Probably one of the coolest features is the gesture control or the object tracking. So you can keep whatever you want in frame as you move around. So you guys may not have thought of getting a gimbal and you figure your arm out is stable enough, but for this price, what you're getting is something that can really change the look and feel of your Instagram stories, of your YouTube videos. It's a really useful tool for creating more professional content without having to really know how to do anything more professional. So if you want to check out the Smooth X or learn more about it or even pick one up, link to it down below. So yeah, the iPhone 11 is a great phone. You would expect that, and it has performed and done everything I would have expected a phone to do over the past 10 months, which makes this next statement seem a little bit odd. Don't buy it. Don't buy the iPhone 11 right now. And you might think, of course, there's new phones coming, but for a lot of people, they just buy a new phone when they need a new phone. And I'm not saying don't get the iPhone 11 because it's not a good phone, because what's coming is finally a really significant upgrade to what we have. Obviously all rumors and speculation, but there's a lot of smoke behind these rumors, which leads me to believe there's probably some fire there as well. So a new design, getting rid of that kind of uninspired design similar to what we have with the flatter edges of the iPad Pro. To my eye, that alone is enough of a reason to wait, but other things, fixing the issues with the screen. Higher resolution coming to the iPhone 12, OLED coming to the iPhone 12, 5G coming to the iPhone 12. All of these things together, presumably a phone that's about the same price, make the iPhone 11 suddenly start to seem a little bit dated. And I think if you're looking for something that's going to last you that 2 or 3 years, the iPhone 12 looks to be that device, plus different screen sizes. You should have a smaller one as well if that's your jam. And Apple tends to discount older generation phones too, so if you really want an iPhone 11, you'll be able to get it in a few months for probably a few $100s less. If you can't tell, I'm really excited about this generation of phones. I'm as excited for the iPhone 12 line as I was for the original iPhone 10. And that was a big change. And we very rarely get big changes from Apple. But it does look like this year is gonna be one of those sort of flagship defining moments for Apple. So yeah, wait for the iPhone 12. That should be a no-brainer and like a duh type thing. But if you do decide to get an iPhone 11 now, you're still gonna get a really good phone. Just because what's coming is going to be better, as every generation tends to be, doesn't take away from how good and capable the iPhone 11 is today.